What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another 2020 NFL schedule breakdown. In this video, I'm going to break down the reigning NFC champion schedule. I'm talking about the San Francisco 49ers. Will the 49ers get back to the Super Bowl in 2020? Will they remain as one of the NFC elite, or will they take a step back this season under Kyle Shanahan? Will Jimmy G get a little bit better? All those questions answered right here. Before I dive into the 49ers schedule, make sure you do spike the like button, subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and comment below your opinion. Let me know in the comment section below what you think of the 49ers this year. What is their record going to be? What seed will they be in the NFC playoffs if you have them going that far? Will they win the NFC West? Let me know in the comment section below. Let's take a look at this schedule. This season for the 49ers, they're going to be facing a new challenge. Not only are they a team that, of course, went to the Super Bowl, and when you go to the Super Bowl, that means there's a little bit of a target painted on your back because now you are the NFC champs. You are the team in the NFC that everybody wants to beat and prove that, you're not the top dog anymore. This is not 2019. This is a new season. You got to prove it all over again and get all the way back to the mountain and try and win that Super Bowl. So this is different because the 49ers, instead of sneaking up on everybody early in the season, they're going to have everyone's attention from the jump, and they're going to get everybody's best game, period. They also are going to play a more difficult schedule because they're playing a first-place schedule. Now, luckily for the 49ers, they do play a lot of teams I would consider on their schedule that I think they match up favorably with. I think there's a lot of matchups on this schedule that specifically the AFC East, although I don't think it's as bad of a division that a lot of people want to point out. I do think that it's a division that the 49ers, in terms of matchups and matchup football, offense versus defense, I think they have advantages there, and we'll dive into the reasons why. And then they also play the NFC East, a division that I think is probably the weakest in the NFC as a whole. And yes, they still play their division twice, which is a difficult division. But again, first place schedule. So on that list, you have New Orleans. That's going to be a tough game. On that list, you have the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. So these are difficult games. And let's start off week number 1 with the Arizona Cardinals, who they kind of struggled with last year. If there was an NFC West team outside of the Seahawks that they really did struggle with, it was actually the Cardinals, surprisingly. I thought for a team that wasn't very good in 2019, the Cardinals gave a top contender like the 49ers 2 very good competitive games. And when I look at this season and the Cardinals and what they've done over the course of the offseason, I do believe the Cardinals have gotten a lot better. I think Kyler Murray is going to take a step forward. I could even see them making the playoffs this year if everything goes right. And that is why I think the 49ers will beat them in week 1. But I actually do believe in week 16, when the Cardinals host the 49ers, the Cardinals will beat them once this year. I think last year, the 49ers got a little lucky in some of their one-score games. They got especially lucky versus the Cardinals, and I think the Cardinals will win one of these matchups. I just think they play them very well, and as we've seen, the 49ers have struggled for whatever reason with mobile quarterbacks. Now, week 2, they play the Jets. I think this is overwhelming a victory here. I think the big thing here is, even though the Jets, I would consider they've upgraded their offensive line, I don't think it's going to be enough to protect Darnold by time and allow him to survey the field. I think overall the 49ers defensive line should be able to just overwhelm their offensive line, get to Darnold, force pressure, force turnovers. And early in this season, the Jets don't really have any weapons that you're really scared of. And defensively, they're solid. I think they can stop the 49ers run game and make it interesting on that side of the ball. But I just don't see the Jets being able to score enough points to win the game. Then in week 3, they play the Giants. That's a back-to-back New York 1 week, and then the next week, back-to-back, they play the Jets and the Giants. And this is actually what I've noticed with a lot of teams on the schedule that play both the Jets and the Giants. This is actually a common theme that I've seen across the league. And I am going to say that the 49ers win both games in New York. I just think they're the superior team. And when you look at the Giants, they're a team that wants to run the ball with Saquon. And maybe they do. Daniel Jones, just like Kyler Murray, has a little bit of mobility to his game, kind of sneaky mobility. They don't really have great weapons, but they're not bad either, not as bad as the Jets. Defensively, they're not great. Again, another team that's not bad versus the run, but not great versus the pass. So I think early in the season, the 49ers, their younger receivers and their younger targets in the passing game, and Jimmy G should be able to get warm and get their feet warm a little bit and be able to get some confidence underneath them before they play some of these tougher pass defenses down the stretch of the schedule. But overall, I like them going 3-0 here, starting off with a win at home versus Arizona and then back-to-back wins in New York. I just think they're the superior team versus both Giant teams. Then they play the Eagles, which is, to me, their first true test versus a really good team in week 4. They do play at home. I think this game is going to go probably be back and forth. I think it's going to be a tight game. I could see either team winning this one, but ultimately I have the 49ers winning. They are the home team for this game, and honestly, I don't really see like a clear advantage here, like on either side, really. I think it comes down to just Kyle Shanahan's ability to scheme and find the mismatches and find the weaknesses in Schwartz's defense that I think ultimately puts them over the top. I think if there's any team that can block the 49ers front, it is the Eagles. So I think they can make it interesting that way. But then when you flip it around, the Eagles don't really have any weapons that are top-tier receivers that necessarily scare you. And they do have the speed, the 49ers, at the linebacker position to contain their tight ends in the passing game. So I think the 49ers and the Eagles have a very tightly contested week 4 game that I think could go either way. Maybe it comes down to the wire, but I do think the 49ers find a way to pull it out at home. Week 5, they play the Dolphins at home again. This is another game just like the New York games where I just feel they're the better team, and it also helps that they're at home in this game. I think here you look at a clear advantage for the 49ers in terms of the running game. I think on both sides of the ball, the Dolphins really struggled to run the ball last year. Now with an improved offensive line, it should help, as well as Matt Breida and Jordan Howard being added to the mix should help, but I don't think that's enough to really dictate pace and keep the 49ers off the field. On the other side of things, I think Miami's weakness is defending the run as opposed to defending the pass. And honestly, I don't really see anybody, unless they try to mix and match like Byron Jones defending George Kittle. I don't really see a true tight end stopper in Miami. They have very good corners, but I'm not really certain about their safety or linebacker play in coverage. So that's an interesting matchup as well to take on George Kittle. I think the 49ers overall, they have some really nice matchups offensively that they'll take advantage of and win this game. Week 6, they play the Rams at home. I think this is where they get their first loss of the season. I think they'll actually lose one game to the Rams this year, and I don't even think the Rams are going to be a great team this year. I just think, we saw 2 games last year versus the Rams as well that were pretty well contested. The first one was mostly just the 49ers defense overwhelming the Rams. But that second matchup was really well played and I think a lot closer, and the Rams definitely had an opportunity to win that game. I think if the Rams find a way for their pass protection to just be a little bit better, they can win. And when you look at the Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan matchup, that's kind of like a chess match that everybody loves to see. And I do think Sean McVay can get the upper hand in one of these matchups this season. I wouldn't be shocked if the 49ers swept the Rams, but I do think that based on their matchups last year, again, one of them was sort of domination, the other one being very close. I do think the Rams can pull one out, but again, not certain. Week 7, you go to New England, and I think this game, looking at the matchups, I think it's probably the third hardest game, maybe second hardest game you have, going into week 7. Like, you don't really play a lot of great teams here until down the stretch of the schedule. I think going to New England is always a challenge, especially when you're in San Francisco, having to travel across the country. I think it's going to be a fascinating matchup, Shanahan versus Belichick. The Patriots defense obviously is one of the best in the league, so that will be a challenge. But I do think what the 49ers have is they have a very experienced defense, and a defense that I think has great chemistry, works together very well. So there's going to be few holes for McDaniels to really take advantage of. And Stidham may struggle in this matchup. I also think that on the opposite side, San Francisco should be able to find a way to run the ball with decent success. This is also a Jimmy Garoppolo revenge game. I think New England could keep it close, but the 49ers ultimately are just too talented to lose this game. So I'm going to say the 49ers. Week 8, they play in Seattle. I believe just like last year, they will lose the first matchup to Seattle. I think Seattle, again, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray. We talked about a little bit Daniel Jones here. I just think the mobility of Russell Wilson really gives the 49ers defense a lot of issues. And his ability to buy time really stretches those zones out. And he finds his receiver and rarely turns the ball over. The Seahawks also defensively, they haven't fared very well versus the 49ers offense, especially the passing attack of the 49ers, but they haven't been overwhelmed in the running game, which has given them a chance in shootout-esque type of matchups. So I think Russell Wilson just makes this game very close. And in Seattle, that's always a tough place to play. This is a rivalry, probably the best in the NFC West right now, and one of the best in the NFC period. I think the Seahawks win this game. Then you go to week 9. They play the Packers. I think this is a win. Obviously, it's on Thursday Night Football. I think they're just a great matchup for the Packers. We saw it twice last year. They overwhelmed them in both games. They ran them over in the NFC Championship. I don't see much changing because the Packers really haven't changed their team. Week 10, the Saints. Okay, they beat the Saints last year in a shootout game. That was very close, very, very tight, and two great offensive coaches that are going to go toe-to-toe once again. It's difficult to beat the Saints twice 2 years in a row in their building. I think the Saints win this game. I think the Saints are a slightly better team than they were last year. Week 13, the Bills playing in Monday Night Football in San Francisco. That's a good game. I could see the Bills pulling this game off because I think they have a very good defense. They're very well schooled defensively with McDermott. And this is definitely a game that you kind of need to look out for and say, you know what, maybe. I'm not quite sure about this one. It depends really on how Josh Allen plays. If Stephon Diggs has a good day here, or he didn't really in the playoffs versus the 49ers, this is a good team. This is not one to really just scratch a W next to. I think the Bills are well-rounded and well-coached. But I think on Monday night at home, the Bills' weakness defensively is defending the run, and offensively, I just don't know fully if they're going to be able to take that next step as a really good passing unit. If they did, then maybe come week 13, Buffalo could come up with the upset. But again, Buffalo's also traveling across the country here, so I'm going to go San Francisco. I think the 49ers... That's going to be a great matchup, again, just like the Belichick matchup between McDermott and Shanahan, one of the best on both sides. Week 14, they play Washington. This is a Kyle Shanahan revenge game. I am going with the 49ers. Week 15, they play Dallas in Dallas. This might be toe-to-toe the most talented team they play all year in terms of pure offensive, defensive, roster talent. I think Dallas is one of the best teams in the NFC this year, and I wouldn't be shocked if Dallas did win this game. I am just going to say that the 49ers have the coaching edge, and I think that's ultimately what allows them to win this game, but I do think it will be very close, depending on how Jimmy plays. I do think I'm a little skeptical about Dallas's ability to rush the passer and defend the run with their front, but we'll have to see come week 15, because this is going to be a big NFC playoff matchup, potentially. And then week 17, they play the Seattle Seahawks. I think they win this game again in week 17, just like last year, and ultimately win this division at 12-4. I'm hoping that week 17 game really matters because it could be, again, one of the best games of the year. So I have the 49ers at 12-4. I think their ceiling is probably 13-3, and their floor is probably 10-6. I think the 49ers, as long as Jimmy plays as well as he did last year, and he doesn't regress, this team should be in the playoffs again. As long as their defense is still top 10, it doesn't have to be top 3 like it was last year. And I think their run game is still going to be excellent. I think they still have a lot of weapons to utilize. Shanahan's one of, if not the best offensive coach in football today. They have most of their defense intact. And I think there's still a lot of young players that have yet to find a role on this team that will find a role this season, and I think they'll just keep chugging along and continue to be one of the NFC elite. I loved them last year. I like them again this year. I'm not sure if they'll go to the Super Bowl yet. I haven't really determined my NFC playoffs and who will get there, but I do think they have a good opportunity to do it again. So 49ers 12-4, they'll be one of the top seeds in the NFC. If you enjoyed, Gronk, spike the like button, subscribe to the channel for more record predictions. It's Mitch. Peace.